Hello and welcome, I'm Joshua Barnes and you're watching The World Report. Let's first take a look at the headlines. US President Donald Trump warns Hamas that all hell will break loose if hostages are not released. This follows the terrorist group's decision to postpone the hostage exchange, while Israel has increased their troop presence around Gaza. Meanwhile, President Trump has signed an executive order which puts a 25% tariff on steel and aluminium imports. Starting on the 4th of March, Trump says no country will be exempt from the import duty. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is set to discuss Trump's push to end the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. Talks are set to take place at the Munich Security Conference as strikes are traded between the two nations. North Korea has accused the United States of a hostile military act after a US Navy submarine was seen docked in South Korea. North Korea's defense ministry say the move could lead to a military confrontation. The ceasefire between Israel and Hamas is hanging by a delicate thread as Trump sends warnings to Hamas. Meanwhile, the humanitarian crisis rages as civilians evacuate the West Bank. Here is the full report.
Ceasefire between Hamas and Israel is appearing increasingly fragile after US President Trump's warnings.
As far as I'm concerned, if all of the hostages aren't returned by Saturday at 12 o'clock, I think it's an appropriate time. I would say cancel it and all bets are off and let hell break out.
Trump's threat comes after Hamas armed wing said the next hostage release due to take place on Sunday will be postponed. The group accused Israel of failing to meet its commitments under the ceasefire agreement. Hamas cited the lack of aid deliveries and the death of 3 Gazans on Sunday. Hamas later said it announced the delay 5 days in advance to give mediators time to push Israel to comply. Reacting to the news, the Israeli military said that it would significantly reinforce areas around the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, residents of the West Bank have started to evacuate amid Israeli military presence.
لكن هذا الشعب متجذر في أرضه ولا يمكن أن يخرج هو يخرج لفترة ولكنه لا بد أن يعود لأنهم هم القادمون ونحن الثابتون في هذه الأرض إن شاء الله.
All eyes are on Israel and Palestine as the humanitarian crisis continues. Bureau Report, NewsX.
We'll now take a look at the latest updates from across South America. 2 planes carrying Venezuelan migrants deported from the United States. The flights, run by Venezuelan airline Conviasa, are a part of a plan to repatriate thousands of migrants who fled Venezuela. Some of the people on the flight are allegedly involved in illegal activities with the Tron de Aragua gang. Colombian President Gustavo Petro has demanded that the entire cabinet should resign. Petro wrote on his X account, "There will be some changes in the cabinet to achieve greater compliance with people," which was soon followed by Labour Minister Gloria Ramirez's resignation. President Daniel Noboa and challenger Luisa Gonzalez are set for the second round runoff in Ecuador's presidential elections. The National Electoral Council announced that in the first round of votes, Noboa had 44.4% and Gonzalez followed close behind with just 44.1%. The 19th Pedagogia 2025 International Congress opens at the Conference Center in Havana, Cuba. This year's agenda includes education, science and innovation for sustainable human development. This year, for the first time, the Congress will also introduce a 4th forum for entrepreneurs, following on with an interactive panel featuring ministers and other prominent figures. The award-winning F1 exhibition is set to make its debut in South America later this year. The Buenos Aires stop marks the beginning of a wider South American tour for the F1 exhibition. The exhibition will visit the capital of Argentina following successful stints in London, Toronto, Vienna and Madrid. The exhibition will feature helmets, trophies and an array of memorabilia, including never-before-seen artefacts. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is all set to meet US Vice President JD Vance at the Munich Security Conference. This comes amid Washington's push to end the near 3-year war with Russia. Watch this report for the latest.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will meet US Vice President JD Vance at the Munich Security Conference. The two are set to discuss the Trump administration's push for an end to the almost 3-year war between Russia and Ukraine. US President Donald Trump also confirms that he will soon dispatch his special envoy Keith Kellogg, who is tasked with drawing up a proposal to halt the fighting, to Ukraine. Trump has said he wants to broker an end to the war, but has not outlined a detailed proposal to bring the two sides to the negotiating table. Both Zelensky and Russian President Vladimir Putin have previously ruled out direct talks with each other, and there appears to be little ground where the two could strike a deal. Meanwhile, Zelensky called for real peace and effective security guarantees for Ukraine. Putin is demanding that Ukraine withdraw from swathes of its south and east that Kyiv still has control over, and considers closer ties between Ukraine and NATO inadmissible. Zelensky has meanwhile rejected any territorial concessions to Moscow, though he has acknowledged that Ukraine might have to rely on diplomatic means to secure the return of some territory. Kyiv fears that any settlement that does not include hard military commitments, such as NATO membership or the deployment of peacekeeping troops, will just allow the Kremlin time to regroup and rearm for a fresh attack. The meeting between Vance and Zelensky comes amid Russia's advancement across Ukraine's eastern Donetsk region, where it has captured several settlements mostly completely flattened by months of Russian bombardments over the past year. Bureau Report, NewsX.
Now for the latest news updates from across the Indo-Pacific region. 5 people have been killed in a suicide bombing in northeastern Afghanistan, which targeted a public gathering in the area. The specific target remains unclear. The bomb detonated near a military academy, causing widespread panic and chaos. Taliban officials condemned the bombing and opened an investigation into the perpetrators. Lee Xing-ku, an 18-year-old kid, was arrested in Singapore after becoming radicalised by extreme far-right. He admired the assailant from Christchurch and intended to do a similar assault in Singapore. Lee had far-right tattoos and memorabilia and was influenced by neo-Nazi ideas. The detention serves as a reminder of Singapore's efforts to uphold social peace and combat extremist threats. A Japanese finance ministry employee lost a bag containing sensitive documents after a night out in Yokohama on February the 6th. The bag included the personal data of 187 suspected drug smugglers and the employee's business laptops. He didn't realise it was missing until reaching home in Sumida. The finance ministry apologised, acknowledging the incident undermined public trust. Alcohol is often used in Japan for businesses and socialising, which may have contributed to the lapse in attention. Thai Airways will introduce Airbus A321neo aircraft in 2026 and 2027 as part of its regional fleet expansion. The airline has signed a lease for 8 A321neos from SMBC Aviation Capital, adding to a previous order for 20. The aircraft may feature lie-flat business class seating, following trends by other airlines, along with extending its network with reopened and expanded routes. Thai Airways also intends to add 50 Boeing 787-9 aircraft. New Zealand has raised concerns over the Cook Islands plan to sign a comprehensive strategic partnership with China, citing national security and the need for transparency due to constitutional ties. Cook Islands Prime Minister Mark Brown defended the agreement, emphasising its focus on infrastructure and deep-sea mining research, not security. This comes after New Zealand recently withdrew its offer of a Cook Islands passport and reviewed its development assistance to Kiribati. Transparency International's 2024 Corruption Perceptions Index, which was published today, claims that Asia-Pacific governments are not fulfilling their anti-corruption commitments, which has disastrous ramifications for climate action. The region's average score of 44 out of 100 is only 1 point higher than the 43 global average. APAC nations, which house 1/3 of the world's population, are in dire need of climate financing assistance to overcome the existential threat posed by climate change. But because of corruption, the This money is now open to theft and abuse. North Korea has condemned the United States after a nuclear-powered submarine docked in South Korea, calling it a hostile military act that could lead to conflict. The North warned the US to stop provocation, emphasising its readiness to defend its security. It also reaffirmed its commitment to continuing its nuclear programme. The statement came amid rising tensions over US actions and comments labelling North Korea a rogue state. Here are the latest updates.
On Tuesday, February 11th, North Korea condemned the United States for a hostile military act after a US Navy submarine docked in South Korea for resupply. A statement was issued that criticized the US for disregarding North Korea's security concerns and urged it to cease its provocative actions that destabilize the region. Reports indicate that the USS Alexandria, a nuclear-powered submarine, arrived at the Busan Naval Base in South Korea on Monday, marking a similar visit to one that occurred last November. North Korea emphasized its vigilance in monitoring the presence of US military assets in the region and reaffirmed its readiness to take all necessary steps to protect the country's security and regional peace. The statement also highlighted the importance of strengthening North Korea's self-defense capabilities, referencing leader Kim Jong-un's pledge in January that the nation's nuclear program would continue indefinitely. In related developments, former US President Donald Trump has expressed interest in re-engaging with Kim Jong-un, calling him a smart guy. Despite a failed summit between the two leaders in Hanoi in 2019, which collapsed over disputes about sanctions relief and what North Korea would offer in return. Earlier this month, North Korea also warned that it would not tolerate any provocations by the United States after US Senator Marco Rubio referred to the country as a rogue state in an interview. The escalating tensions highlight the continued standoff between North Korea and the US, with both sides remaining on high alert. Bureau Report, NewsX.
Let's now head to Europe for the latest updates from that continent. Officials announced on Monday that UK authorities arrested over 600 individuals in a crackdown on undocumented migration and people smuggling gangs. This is a sharp increase from just 352 arrests in January of last year. The arrests occurred at over 800 locations, including nail bars, restaurants and convenience stores. The operation is part of the new Labour government's plan to combat illegal migration and organised crime. An 11-year-old French girl, Louise Lassalle, was found stabbed to death in woods south of Paris near her school. She had been missing since leaving school on Friday afternoon. A police source said she suffered multiple wounds, likely from a knife to her neck and torso. Authorities arrested a 23-year-old man on suspicion of the crime. Prosecutors confirmed the arrest as investigations continue. The case has shocked the local community, with police working to determine a motive. Let's now take a look at the latest updates from across North America. The Justice Department has ordered federal prosecutors to drop corruption charges against New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Officials argue that the case has interfered with the mayor's ability to aid the president's crackdown on illegal migration. Acting Deputy Attorney General Emil Bove has directed prosecutors in New York to dismiss the bribery charges against Adams immediately. A wintry mess has been bearing down on mid-Atlantic states. Forecasts of significant snow and ice accumulations have prompted warnings of potential power outages. Travel has become treacherous till early Wednesday. Virginia Republican government has declared a state of emergency ahead of the storm. The man accused of stabbing renowned British Indian author Sir Salman Rushdie in 2022 has gone on trial in upstate New York. On Monday, prosecutors outlined their case against Hadi Matta, a 27-year-old man from New Jersey, accused of attacking Mr. Rushdie. Multiple witnesses have detailed the chaos that ensued after the stabbing. However, the attack has left the author with devastating injuries. These include the loss of his sight in one eye and a severely damaged hand. President Trump has pardoned former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich. He served 8 years in prison over corruption charges. However, his sentence was cut short by Trump during his first term. Blagojevich has been sentenced to 14 years in prison on a wide array of corruption charges. These charges included extortion related to state funds for a children's hospital. He was also accused of trying to sell Barack Obama's vacated US Senate seat in 2008. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump signed an executive order. This order directs the Justice Department to pause prosecutions of Americans accused of bribing foreign government officials. The pause applies to those accused of trying to win or retain business in their countries. The order also directs Attorney General Pam Bondi to review current and past actions related to the law. Trump has also announced that Special US Envoy Richard Grenell will serve as the interim executive director. The position is for the J.F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. However, last week he announced the termination of several individuals from the center's board of trustees. This included Chairman David Rubenstein. Global trade tensions continue to escalate as President Donald Trump imposes sweeping tariffs on steel and aluminium imports, hitting key allies and triggering an international backlash, with Canada, the EU and others preparing to retaliate. Here are the latest.
Today I'm simplifying our tariffs on steel and aluminum so that everyone can understand exactly what it means. It's 25% without exceptions or exemptions.
In a bold move to reshape US trade policies, President Donald Trump has signed executive orders imposing a 25% tariff on steel and aluminum imports, effective March 12, 2025. Affected nations include Argentina, Australia, Canada, Mexico, European Union countries, and the United Kingdom for aluminum imports, while steel tariffs will extend to Brazil, Japan, and South Korea, alongside the other previously mentioned nations. Trump has also hinted at further tariffs on products like automobiles, pharmaceuticals, and computer chips, aiming to boost US industries, particularly steel production. In response, Canadian steelmakers warn of significant disruption, while the European Commission vows to protect its interests.
But once those tariffs kick in, this will have devastating and disruption all across the steel supply chain, from key imports to key outputs. So honestly, this will be a very changed relationship immediately, and that's unfortunate.
French President Emmanuel Macron has also expressed intent to confront Trump over broader tariff threats, suggesting the focus should remain on China. However, the impact on European exports, especially steel, has been described as a devastating blow, while global markets have shown signs of tariff fatigue. Despite the tensions, US stock markets remain resilient. Bureau Report, NewsX.
Let's now take a look at the latest from across the world of business. French luxury group Kering said that sales and net profit plunged in 2024, brought down by a slump at its flagship Gucci house. Net profit sank by 62% while sales decreased by 12%. Gucci, the group's main house, has been hit by adverse market conditions, notably in Asia. Oil company BP's fourth quarter profit fell to $1.17 billion, marking the lowest earnings for the oil major in 4 years, as weak margins dented its refining business. The fall comes just days after reports that activist investor Elliott Investment Management has taken a stake in BP, fueling investor hopes for board changes and strategy shifts to boost returns. This adds pressure on CEO Murray Auchincloss, who faces growing concerns over BP's energy transition plans. Indebted mainland developer China Vanke has secured a funding guarantee from its main state-backed shareholder to repay debt, indicating further support from the government following a management reshuffle. Shenzhen Metro Group, which holds a 27.2% stake, signed a 3-year agreement with Vanke to provide secured loans of up to 2.8 billion yuan or $383 million. Vanke will provide assets of up to 4 billion yuan as collateral to the Shenzhen Metro Group. China's largest bubble tea firm, Mixu Group, will begin book building for its Hong Kong IPO by the end of February to raise around $500 million. Mixu plans to start trading on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange in early March. The firm plans to use the money raised in its IPO to expand production facilities and help increase its range of drinks. This comes after rival bubble tea operator Gumming raised $232 million in its Hong Kong IPO. Merck, the German healthcare and technology group, is in advanced talks to acquire US cancer and rare disease drug maker SpringWorks Therapeutics. Merck said its negotiations to buy SpringWorks are ongoing. However, no legally binding agreement has been reached and there is no guarantee that a deal will be finalised. However, if negotiations progress successfully, an agreement could be signed in the coming weeks. SpringWorks shares closed 34% higher, giving the company a market value of around $4 billion. Swiss pharmaceutical giant Novartis said it has agreed to acquire biopharma firm Anthos Therapeutics for up to $3.1 billion. Anthos was founded by Blackstone Life Sciences and Novartis in 2019 to develop, manufacture and commercialise abaclamab, a treatment to prevent stroke and recurrence of blood clots. The transaction, expected to close in the first half of this year, will cost Novartis $925 million up front, with potential additional payments of up to $2.15 billion. A US bus crash in Guatemala has claimed the lives of 55 people. Officials are yet to identify the cause of this gruesome crash. Here are the latest.
Rescue operations continue as officials retrieve bodies from the wreckage. 55 out of the 70 passengers have been confirmed dead. The bus fell into a sewage-contaminated river, marking it as one of Latin America's worst road accidents. Eyewitnesses described seeing the vehicle crash into two cars before it hit the guardrail and fell into the river.
La mañana, ¿verdad? Y cuando nos dijeron el accidente por las noticias, entonces nos dirigimos hacia acá.
Y que no sabemos si algún familiar de nosotros pues venía ahí. Bueno, pero sí ha sido una tragedia muy grande, muy dolorosa y ahí sí que son cosas que no deberían de suceder. Son cosas que no deberían de pasar acá y
Firefighters and rescue workers from the Guatemalan Red Cross were mobilized as the news reached the city.
Sí, Andrés Lemus, vocero de Cruz Roja Guatemalteca. Pues en este sector se recibieron informaciones de un accidente de tránsito, el cual se registraba en este sector de la zona 6 de la ciudad de Guatemala, en donde un autobús de transporte público había colisionado con otros vehículos y posteriormente había caído por un barranco hacia un río. Entonces, como Cruz Roja Guatemalteca, pues nos movilizamos hacia este punto en apoyo al Cuerpo de Bomberos Municipales para poder realizar la recuperación de los cuerpos de las personas que se encuentran acá fallecidas.
All that remains after the crash are the burnt and wrecked remains of once soulful lives. A memorial made for all the lives lost in the crash stands at the crash site for relatives and loved ones of the dead, marking an accident that won't be forgotten anytime soon. Bureau Report, NewsX.
That is all we have time for, but we'll be back very soon with more of your latest international news updates.